Get into that conversation now. Joining me in studio is Calvins Oridi. He's a political analyst, as well as Mwinzi from the Jubilee Party. She is an aspirant for Mwingi West parliamentary seat. Many thanks for coming in. Let me just speak on from what Chris Tairu has said. Some of the fulfilled promises, but we also have the unfulfilled promises, like the building of sports stadium in the major cities in the country. We have the food security program as well. Remember, Galana Kulalu has been very underwhelming. So do we expect these unfulfilled promises to feature in today's manifesto launch?
Absolutely. Well, I think it's important, first of all, to understand that 4 years is a very short amount of time to do as much as this government has vis-a-vis industrialization. So, you know, in my view, a standard gauge railway is more of a priority, more impacting than a national stadium. With that said, on the issue of food security, all I can say is, you know, Jubilee doesn't create rain. And if the previous government, I mean, we've had Raila Odinga, we've had Kalonzo Musyoka in government for very, very many years. If they had focused more on building dams, on increasing water catchment areas, on building fertilizer factories, on giving livestock farmers insurance, they would be in a position to actually cast a stone. Well, unfortunately, they're not.
But in their manifesto, one of the things that would have helped Kenyans to become secure when it comes to what they put on their table was the Galana Kulalu irrigation scheme. Billions were put into that particular scheme, but there's not been much from it.
There's not been much, but that doesn't mean that it will not be done. You know, Rome was not built in a day. And I think that we're making significant progress, which is why those of us who have seen and felt the impact that Jubilee has had are saying, give this government 5 more years. And if what we've seen is working and what they have pledged is to continue from where they've reached, then Kenyans will be much better off.
So we expect some of these things to feature in today's manifesto.
Absolutely.
Calvins, what do you think?
Akisa, I have a problem with anybody trying to defend the situation we are in Kenya today. Every time you see them, they start on a very defensive note. It's either Rome was not built in a day, 4 years is not enough, and things like that. But remember, this standard gauge railway that they keep on talking about was not even in their manifesto. The only reason why the standard gauge railway was given a priority, because it was a big meat for them to eat as others watch. The Chinese ate it right from its inception to running it today. So many people have eaten on it. Maybe something that she does not know, that all the stations, all the land on which the stations have been built, have been bought from very serious senior people in today's government and the past government. It was just a gravy train for everyone. The very things that they had put in the manifesto, none of it is done. When you come and tell us that...
Well, that could not be everything. There are some things like in the health sector, maternal health care.
I will even get there and tell you that they have not done as much as the country expected them to do. What they have done is too little to credit them for.
I think that's... Anyway, I want to...
What are these things you think the Jubilee government should be credited?
Let's go on food. On the 31st of March 2015, the Jubilee government launched what they call Strategic Food Plan, on which 2.1 billion was placed there by the CS for Finance. Why? Because they had anticipated that in 2016, going to 2017, there would be serious drought, and we need to plan for it. When we finally got there, we cannot explain where 2.1 billion went to. We cannot explain it today. What Jubilee has succeeded in is ensuring that Kenya remains #1 in corruption, that Kenya remains #1 in divisiveness, intertribal divisiveness. You can't find a president that goes to Kisii 4 times and have never stepped in Luo Nyanza. And one of the things in their manifesto, #7.
We have seen them hold rallies in Nyanza.
No, they have only gone to churches. They went to a church in Bondolas by the deputy. President Uhuru only went to churches in Kisumu to pray.
Can I respond? Kindly. He takes issue with me, but I take serious issue with the fact that, A, somebody representing ODM can talk about corruption, especially vis-a-vis food. We know when former Prime Minister Raila Odinga was in office, what happened with the maize scandal. When it comes to corruption, just look at today's Nation newspaper. And this ties directly into ODM. Even his deputy, I didn't interrupt you, even his deputy, we have seen issues with his foundation being frozen. So they have no moral authority whatsoever.
So the argument that we have seen is that a sitting government or a sitting president should not be launching a manifesto. They should be telling us, as the citizens, what they have done and why they need more time to finish the kind of projects they've had. How would you respond to that?
I disagree with that. I mean, this is a re-election campaign. So this is a government that is aspiring to come into power again. It is actually their mandate to articulate their scorecard and from there convince Kenyans that they are worth being elected again, because from A, they will take them to B. So that's simply what it is. It's a continuation. It's a freshening up of the manifesto, things that were accomplished, things that still need to be completed, and articulating that and selling it to the people of the Republic of Kenya. And I am on ground and I'm listening to its resonance, and the numbers are building, because while we are talking about uniting a country, I mean, for you to say that about divisive politics, it is your candidate who was in Kajiado the other day saying Warudi kwao. It is your candidate who actually, he had enough there. He went to Naivasha and repeated the same message. So you tell me who's preaching divisive politics, trying to explode this country.
Let him respond to
that. You know, first of all, let's go to the maize. You said there was scandal in maize when Raila Odinga was Prime Minister. You remember Raila Odinga was bold enough to fire 2 ministers who are on his side of the coalition. And President Kibaki came back and reinstated them. Wasn't that action enough? We want to see who Uhuru has fired for this mess in the food strategy in Kenya. We can't have a country that tells its citizens lies one after another. We can't have that.
All right. I would want to steer this conversation to a very different turn. The citizen, the Kenyan whom all these fights are for. Do you think the citizens got the value for money as we take a look at the Jubilee government's scorecard?
You know, let's start with him so that I can respond to him. Because whatever I say,
let's start with Jubilee Party's scorecard, because they have been in government for the past 5 years. No, let us start.
Fantastic. It's actually a very exciting thing for me to talk about the Jubilee scorecard, because unless you're blind, deaf and dumb, you see it. As a woman, there are so many advantages that have emanated from this government. Number one, and we cannot underestimate this, because, you know, when you're elite, it's one thing. When you are a young woman just starting your family and you cannot even afford the fee of just delivering that child, it is a very big deal to be able to do that in a safe and sound environment. Number two, as a woman, there are all these funds that have been provided to empower us, especially at a rural level. And remember, I'm campaigning at the grassroots level. So I've seen beneficiaries of these, and it's very easy to dismiss them. But once you begin to understand the impact that this has on the local level, at that, you know, critical level, it's huge. Now, let's just talk about hospitals, since we're still on healthcare. We've gone from having 3 to 9, first of all, every county right now has a referral hospital. We've got diagnostic equipment in hospitals, x-ray machines. My people don't have to come from Mwinzi to Kenyatta Hospital. It is right there. It is not equivalent to the Aga Khan Hospital, but considering we don't even have bus fare, we have that facility. We cannot take that for granted. That's just on healthcare. Let's talk about education. You will answer. On education, and now I'm talking as a parent, I struggle with women coming to my place every single day looking for school fees. The fact that we have gone from having 45 technical institutions in 2003 to 136 right now. We have had things that, you know, people, again, assume are no big deal. The waiving of school fees, the tuition, not just tuition, the examination fees, to now free secondary school education. That is colossal. Your network erroneously talked about, you know, there's a whole laptop initiative. And you mentioned that there were 11,000 laptops. That is factually incorrect. In fact, the pilot project alone for Jubilee supplied more than 11,000 laptops. Bungoma alone had 38,000, almost 39,000. Nationally, we've distributed over 650,000, and that's just as of April.
All right. Let me just cut you short.
Because I could talk till tomorrow about accomplishments.
Definitely. From the projects that have been launched, there's a survey that was conducted late last year by the Twaweza East Africa Sauti za Wananchi. 47% of Kenyans say the health sector has major problems. 45% of them say the health sector has minor problems, and only 7% of them say there are no problems with the health sector. They're impressed by how the government has conducted itself towards that end. 59% of Kenyans say they're not satisfied with the availability of drugs in hospitals. And this is some of the issues that came out. So when you take a look at that and the infrastructure projects, say the standard gauge railway, vis-a-vis the kind of debt that Kenya is in, is it a raw deal for citizens?
No, let me address the health issue first. I think that's probably a fair response because when you go to a healthcare facility, even though you acknowledge that it has improved, you will obviously still see some deficiencies. Even if you go to a private establishment, you will still see maybe the waiting time to see a doctor is lengthy. So it's in the makings, which is again why I think they deserve a second term.
Let's get into the debt.
The debt, a lot of infrastructure is capital intensive. And we as a nation cannot move forward until we industrialize. And it's not just about the standard gauge railway. We're doing a lot. There's a reason why industries that have stalled, projects that have stalled, like pen paper, are being kicked off again. There's a reason why foreign industrial companies, let's say Volvo, VW, are here. This is really becoming not just a tourist base and a business base, but actually an industrial hub for Africa.
Calvins definitely wants to poke
I needed to have spoken a long time ago. And because she's complaining that I will oppose everything, let me tell you, the only manifesto Kenyans need is one that talks of eradication of poverty, ignorance, and disease. Then you add peace, love, and unity, and that is all we need. We don't need all these shows. But you're talking about Jubilee has made so many hospitals, level 5, level 10, I don't know level what. All Jubilee did was carry a can of paint, go to an hospital, write level 10, level 5. Nothing was put inside. Jubilee went and took 38 billion and bought some Chinese medical equipment and distributed it into hospitals that do not need them. They have not even used till today. 38 billion is the kind of money that would build 3 Kenyatta National Hospitals in this country. So that when we even do Panadol... You talk to the person who needs kidney dialysis and you tell them that machine is a pain. Why do you put a kidney dialysis and there's nobody to operate it? There's not doctor even to diagnose anything there. There are some things that we just do because some people need a gravy train. They need to make money on the side. The kind of kickbacks they get on 38 billion is as far as 10 billion.
So we don't just throw accusations. As we poke holes into the Jubilee's manifesto and a scorecard, what different things should we expect from NASA then?
Let me tell you, as I told you, all the manifesto Kenyans need is one that talks about eradication of poverty, ignorance, and disease. Remember, the country of Tanzania.
For clarification, is that what yours is going to have? Only those 3 things? They will not tell us how you will eradicate poverty?
All these things that Jubilee is saying they are going to do would eradicate these ones. If there was goodwill in doing them. If there was goodwill in doing them. But let me tell you something. Tanzania has the budget half of Kenya and implemented free secondary education 3 years ago, running very smoothly. Jubilee is still promising 4.5 years into their regime that they will provide free secondary education. When even the primary education, sometimes the teachers go to the end of the term without the remittance of the money.
You know what's so funny about this?
So I think there's no goodwill.
You know what's so funny about this?
What do we expect? What should we expect?
He's criticizing that, and yet they copied the exact same thing and are running around talking about free
I do not want this to be about who copied who.
If Kenyans need education,
what kind of manifesto do we expect
can't keep
from
away
NASA?
From education because Jubilee has promised it. But you remember, NASA is promising because they will do. Jubilee is promising that they don't do.
What kind of manifesto do we expect from NASA?
I have told you our manifesto will be an elaboration of eradication of poverty, eradication of ignorance, and eradication of disease. Okay. Why do I talk of ignorance? Ignorance is simply the lack of education. There was a British chancellor called Henry Brougham. He once said that an educated person is easy to lead, but difficult to drive. easy to govern, but impossible to enslave.
All right.
Because these people intend to enslave us forever.
Okay.
In
Oridi?
these suckers of manifestos, they keep on denying us education to our children.
I don't know
Okay,
who us
let's
is.
listen to, we spoke to a number of Kenyans in Eldred from some of the expectations they have from the launch of both Jubilee and NASA manifestos. Let's just take a look at what they had to say.
Sure.
Hii manifesto wana launch leo, kwangu mimi naona haitatusaidia. Sababu mwanzoni walituambia mambo na laptops. Kitu wametuongezea ni mzigo kwa maisha. Tulizaa watoto haraka sana ndio tupate hii laptop, lakini hatujaiona. Sasa hata hivi vitu wanaenda kulonji leo, naona hakuna kitu watatufanyia. So na expect waende walonji hiyo vitu yao, tukue na amani, na kama tutawashinda watoke waende.
Serikali ya Jubilee tuangazie story na barabara, hata infrastructure. Kuna mambo na bei na bidhaa kama chakula, unga iko shida hapo. Pia chakula zingine tunalia tu unga peke yake, lakini chakula zingine bado siko juu. At least watuteremshie hiyo kidogo, ndio mwananchi asifinjike sana. Pia kuna hii mambo na strike ya walimu ya madaktari. Kama ingewezekana, kama kuna njia serikali ya Jubilee, because hiyo ilikuwa manifesto yao, walituambia mambo na afya. So kama wanaweza tuona njia ya kusuluhisha hiyo mgomo, at least watu wanakufa hospitali. Madaktari wako wanataka haki yao, waangalie vile wanaweza tusaidia.
Kwa majina mimi naitwa Samuel Chemweno. Kwa kweli I don't expect anything from Jubilee because Jubilee wamekuwa katika uongozini for the last 4 years. Wakisema mambo ya security, what have they been doing? Wakisema saa hii si wangefanya wakati ile nyingine. Nao wakisema mambo ya food security. Hii kitu food security si kitu inaanguka saa hii. Food security ni kitu ambayo inatakana mpango, na Jubilee wangepanga hiyo mpango 3 years ago. Wangekuwa nasema saa hii ile shida ilikuwa ya food ilikuwa imewekwa namna hii, lakini saa hii tumefanya hii, tumetimiza hii. So we expected nothing from the Jubilee government. It's why high time for Jubilee government to down the tools and leave Kenya to the rulers.
All right, an array of responses there we got after we asked Kenyans some of the expectations from the launch of the manifesto by the Jubilee Party today. Something has caught my ears. Someone there has said, waende wa launch hizo vitu zao, wamalize watuondoke. Have citizens gotten to a point where they just don't care about these things anymore because they feel cheated?
I think citizens in general, you know, you talk to the person's heart, you talk to their stomach. And if people are feeling downtrodden, and of course that's, I don't know what sampling you did there, but there are many other people that would have something positive. I mean, I listen to positive comments, I listen to negative comments, I listen to what I view as balanced comments. But you know, your first interviewee there said he hurried to have many children because he was promised laptops. I think that also goes to, you know, how people function. You cannot blame the government. It's just like having, you know, breeding 25 children and then blaming the government for hunger in your house. I mean, we also as wananchi need to take responsibility for our leadership. But, however, I think that the sentiment being expressed there is where even at a local level, and you saw this during the nominations, people were eager to just sweep out what they viewed as poor leadership. And that's why you've got many people standing up as independents. You know, you've got people now, forget the propaganda, who are realizing, at least in my area, they're saying, you know, actually, wacha hii maneno, hii serikali imefanya kazi. You know, when you didn't have electricity and now you have it, when you didn't have certain benefits you had and now you have them, even though it's not perfect, they're saying imefanya, you know, kazi.
Calvins, from what we've had from a number of Kenyans there, it's like they've lost hope in manifestos, just from the kind of samples we've done there. So as NASA, what are they going to do? What should they do to bring this back, if at all, really, people have lost hope?
Let me tell you what is needed in governance. The goodwill to do to the people what ought to be done. These manifestos were put. The first sessional paper, number 10, 1965, said Kenya only needs to eradicate ignorance, disease, and poverty.
You've
that
been
is
over
what we know.
We've been over that. We know NASA will launch its manifesto.
Remember, I am not here as NASA.
Definitely.
Actually, it's ODM, not NASA.
No, none of that.
And
So-
NASA's not even a
If
party.
you analyze this carefully, you have said what you've
Akisa,
had
it
to
is
say
not
about Jubilee.
Yes.
If you were to advise NASA on what to come out with, what would you tell them?
It is not what to come out with. It is to do what is already there. ODM, you remember, had a manifesto. Then CORD had a manifesto. Then now NASA is going to launch another manifesto.
Yeah.
Even them, they would be useless if they don't execute those manifestos. If they don't, if the things in those manifestos don't manifest themselves in the people. So the whole thing here is not about whose manifesto is better than the other. It is about who executes what is in the
Who
manifesto
delivers.
of the people. Who delivers.
I'll agree with him.
But you see, here, you've seen those people. They have given hope on this government. But even God has. You can see the plagues have started.
We cannot be
Sigiri
sure.
Ridge is down.
We cannot be sure about that. But she seems to agree with you on
No,
something
I
finally
do.
since the show began.
I agree. This is one of the few times that I'll agree with Oridi. I'm agreeing it's about action.
Yes,
Okay?
it's about action.
Yes, precisely. Let me say that if you add up the tenure, Raila Odinga, Wetangula, Kalonzo Musyoka, they have 100 years of working in government combined. Tell me,
Were they
what
leaders
on-
of a government?
Wait, those guys have never
prime
been
minister,
presidents of
Leaders
this
of a
country.
as vice president, as minister of this and that. Tell me what on earth they are going to accomplish that in
Let me
all
handle
these
that.
years they have not been able to do.
All right, I will close on that note.
A lot of hot
I'll
air.
close on that note. I
A
wish we
lot of
had
hot air.
more time to have this conversation. Mwende Mwinzi, parliamentary aspirant for the constituency of Mwingi
Mwingi
West,
West, yes.
as well as Calvin Sowidi, political analyst. Thank you very much for joining us here on KTN News Desk. Fortunately, we'll have to wrap this up, but remember, Jubilee is set to launch its manifesto today evening. NASA, specifically the flag bearer Raila Odinga, is in Siaya County campaigning. We also have a lot more stories that we are chasing for you, so keep it on our subsequent bulletins. My name is Akisa Wandera. Good afternoon.